Well, shalom everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. We're up to page 82 of volume 2 of Rabbi Victor Miller's new translation and commentary of Duties of the Mind. And we're in Shah HaBakina, which is the gate of examining. And we are up to a section that is entitled The 6 Aspects of Bakina. So we're going to be briefly looking at the 6 different types of examining that we can partake of or that we can engage in. And then after that, we're going to proceed to look at each one in turn, which will probably take 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe 6 videos, depends how we go. But just for the moment, we're going to just sort of outline them here. If you are new to the channel, I encourage you to go back to the beginning of this particular series. This video will appear in a playlist. And I encourage you to go back to the beginning. But if not, you want to just listen to this video and see if you like what the content is, I will just bring you up to speed with a little bit of background of what it is contained in this video. Essentially, you are going to be learning Musar. What is Musar? This is ethics, and this is the bedrock or the baseline or ground zero of everything that you do if you want to take on a religious lifestyle, whether you want to be a Noahide. Well, you probably likely that you are already a Noahide if whether you know it or not, if you're not a Jew, but whether you're a righteous one or not, that is up for debate, I guess. And this is what we're learning to do, is to go through these videos and learn to be righteous, whether we're Noahides or whether we're Orthodox Jews. Yes, if you're an Orthodox Jew, this is absolutely fine for you to watch these videos. This particular series in particular, I can't vouch for all the other videos on the channel. If you're Orthodox, I would probably question by spending too much time on YouTube if you profess to be Orthodox. So, what I'm ultimately saying is, if you're Orthodox, you really shouldn't even know what YouTube is, let alone be getting on it and sort of wandering around. I hope that didn't sound too heavy-handed. But anyway, so that's a little bit of a background. And so this particular work, based off a work written 1,000 years ago by Rabbi Bakr ibn Pakuda in Spain, Kivot HaLevavot, Duties of the Heart. This version with the commentaries that occurred largely around the 80s, which were recorded by audio cassette, when Rabbi Victor Miller was speaking in New York, have all been transcribed into a running commentary of that particular work. And this is going to enable you to really stop and think about a myriad of different things that you probably wouldn't have given a second thought to or for before. And you're going to kind of pull your head in a little bit and go, okay, this is amazing. This is a whole world I didn't see. And it's really about attitudinal change, and not about sort of changing your circumstances or attaining prosperity or anything like that. This is purely about gaining a mind that is in line with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, that is the Holy One, blessed be He. Okay, so let's get into it. The six aspects of Bikina, and this is, like I said, page 82. We must explain 6 aspects of this subject, Bikina, examining or reflecting upon creation. Number 1, the first of them is, what is the subject of true reflection? And number 2, the second aspect is, do we have an obligation to reflect on creation? Is it something that Tzaddikim, pious people do? Is it something that Tzaddikim will do, but which is voluntary, or is it an obligation that everyone is required to do? Now, just out of the gates, most people agree that reflecting, times of self-reflection, is actually a good thing. Very few people will disagree with that and say, you shouldn't sit down and reflect on anything. Nobody with a rational mind will say that's a bad thing. And so already we kind of already know that reflection is something that's very important. Now, we live in an age where we have a lot of screens in various formats that are drawing us away and limiting our times of self-reflection and reflecting on our environment and our behavior and how we interacted with people and so on and so forth. And so without reflection, we will just continue to march on without much thought of fixing anything. And we could actually end up finding ourselves getting worse. So it's very, very good to stop and to pause and to, this is one of the reasons we do a bracha before we eat, is that we're pausing before we're partaking of the sustenance that Hashem has provided us. And it just gives us, by pausing to say the bracha, it's giving us a few moments to think about what we're actually doing. So essentially, as I've said many times before, this heightens your sensitivity to the creation in your environment that is all around you, which was given to you by Hashem. And you soon realize that all of the creation, the environment that is encompassing you, is all provided out of Hashem's kindness. It's all a provision which is a display of Hashem's chesed, of his kindness. Number 3, the third aspect is, what are the ways that we can reflect on and see this truth in all the created things around us? What can we see in all natural things that will show us the wisdom of Hashem and the kindness of Hashem? Now, the word bra'im, means things that are created. In contrast, artificial things are not necessarily a sign of Hashem's wisdom. However, natural things are all demonstrations of the plan of Hashem. Near the end of this subject, the author talks about artificial things that have been invented by people for the benefit of mankind. He points out that such inventions are also from Hashem because he inspired the minds of the inventors. However, here we are talking about the natural things that demonstrate the plan of Hashem. So, initially we're not going to be looking at things that have been created by man, which are still inspired by Hashem. So technically they're still something that we should give thanks to Hashem for, because he inspired in the hearts of the minds of the builders and the architects and so on. But we're looking at natural things in creation, like trees, like soil, like the sea, like the wind, and the light of the moon and the light of the sun and the warmth of the sun and all these things. However, we are talking about the natural things that demonstrate the plan of Hashem. Number 4, the fourth aspect is, how many signs of wisdom are there in naturally created things that we can reflect on? Number 5, the fifth aspect is, which of these signs is closer to us, and as such, are we obligated to reflect on it more than the rest? So there are things that we see and experience in the world that are more obvious than others. Other things are more subtle, and if we sort of blink, we might miss them. And so what's the obligation? Should we be looking deeply into the things that are quite obvious to us, or should we be sidetracking that and going for the more obscure things to be thinking about and comprehending? Which way do we go? When a person starts this subject, he should begin with those things that are easier for him to understand and therefore more obligatory. So there we go. So these are things that are most obvious and easier for you to understand. So it's no good for you to dive headfirst into Zohar if you're not even familiar with the concept of the weekly Torah portions, and you're diving into the Zohar. You are really going to find yourself in a hot mess pretty soon. So you need to start at the beginning, and where everybody starts, no matter who you are, is with the weekly Torah portions and with the regular reading of Psalms. No matter who you are, no matter how great you are in the Torah world, and how pious you are or how righteous you are, these are the sort of the core of everything that you do revolves around the weekly Torah portion. And a hefty, constant recitation, not only the reading of Psalms, but the studying of Psalms as well, and reading commentaries. Commentaries are absolutely critical to your learning. Good Orthodox Jewish commentaries are absolutely critical to your learning. Without them, you will be coming up with your own concepts and coming off sort of half-cocked with all these sort of weird and wily things. And you're ignoring thousands of years of wisdom of the chosen people of Hashem, which is insanity. So don't, contact me and say, I listened to this video of this guy talking about when the Sabbath is actually meant to occur, and it's not when the Jews say it is, and these are all the verses that he brings to prove his point. You are completely and utterly off your head. You have this sort of lone maverick who happens to be a good speaker and has presented like maybe a well-crafted video, maybe it's well edited, and he's pulled together some things, and some of the things he's ignoring other things And your ignorance of the things that he's ignoring makes you think that the things that he's presenting are correct, and in the process he's literally ignoring thousands upon thousands of years of wisdom of men who are universes out of his league in terms of their piety and their understanding of scriptures. He's not even referring to anything, not even a milli, portion of what they talk about. Doesn't even know who they are. And you're deriving wisdom from this guy. You are completely off your head. So those of you that are watching videos and deriving Torah knowledge from, people that are kind of mavericks who, are just sort of trying to come up with their own concepts, unlike this channel where we focus on the wisdom of the sages, we don't focus on the wisdom of Jason Jordan. You're eventually going to be led down the garden path. Worst case scenario, you get involved in a cult and then it becomes a life risk down the track, either within the cult itself or the cult does something that causes it to be a thorn in the side of the local community, and then the government gets involved, and then it could turn into Waco Part 2. So be extremely careful of these mavericks online. Maybe you've taken a liking to somebody and you notice that they don't really care about what the Jews have to say on a subject. In time, do what you can to slowly pull away and disengage from this individual. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, this person introduced me to the Torah. It was one of his videos was the first video that I saw, and now I'm getting into learning about the Torah. Be that as it may, Jason, this guy ticks all the boxes of somebody we should be wary of, but he got me here involved in the Torah in the first place, and my answer to that is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Maybe you can have one or two exchanges with him and ask him to consider some additional things that you've found along the way, and change accordingly. And I'll tell you what the answer will be. The answer will be a no. And then you move on, and you be thankful that he took you by the hand and led you from one rock to the next rock over the little river of rushing current of water, so to speak. And you respect the fact that he was somebody that greeted you at the door. Everybody is responsible for themselves in terms of what they choose to do. You can't hold somebody else responsible and say, well, this is the person that led me in through the doorway into this path, and that person's chosen to stay at the doorway, and you stay at the doorway with him and feel obligated to just stay there and not progress with your connection with the Kadesh Baruch Hu and go no further. That's not going to fly. They're going to say, well, you can't allow somebody to hold you back just because you feel like a sense of obligation. You have to keep going, and if you can, mention to the person, listen, I'm going to keep going. You okay to sort of stay here, and then move on and do so respectfully, and never say anything bad about the person, unless obviously the person started to go off the derrick, off the path, and then that becomes a different story. So, oh gosh, I don't even know how I got talking about that, but it's very important that that we move forward, that we don't sort of stagnate and stay in the one spot. You get a certain revelation on something, you make a move and you act accordingly, and then you stay there and no more revelation. You're not ready to accept any more revelation, any more news, and this can be detrimental. So you need to be able to continue to be teachable, I guess is what I'm saying. When a person starts this subject, he should begin with those things that are easier for him to understand and therefore more obligatory. Some things need more thought and more education. The general rule is that whatever is easier is more obligatory, and whatever is more difficult is less obligatory. And so the obligation to study the more obvious things that are close to us and are easier to understand is much greater. Number 6, the sixth aspect: what are the impediments to reflection and the related teachings? They are ways that the process of Bechina can be interfered with and ruined. All these teachings can be made into nothing by certain behaviors. For instance, if a person deals with Netzarim, scoffers, they can harm the process by ridiculing it. Even though the person studies the subject seriously, it can become pale and dim in his mind and possibly erase entirely by his associating with fools. And this is why one of the first things that David Melech says in the first chapter of the book of Psalms is that, he does not associate with scoffers and mockers. And so, some of you are starting to seriously start to learn, but you're still having an aspect of your lifestyle, meeting or going to a place or interacting with people that couldn't care less about what you're doing in terms of your Torah learning. And they may amuse you by their behavior, by the things that they say, but at the same time, you know that if you were to share what you were learning, they would scoff at it. And unless it's a work-related situation where you can't get away from them, then you need to disengage and stop going there and being around these people and compartmentalizing your life. One aspect of it is Torah learning. The other aspect of it is going to the pub and having a drink and a laugh with people that if you were to bring this stuff up, you would be ridiculed. And perhaps they have ridiculed you in the past, but you just sort of think, well, they don't know what they're talking about. And besides, we go for the same football team, blah, blah, blah. We've got some other things in common. Yes, be that as it may, but that's only going to erode and undermine the time that you're spending in learning in another place, in another time. It'll literally end up erasing your learning, and you won't be able to progress in terms of your learning because you're sitting with scoffers and mockers, and you it's not a good thing to do that. If there's a chance you think that you can, do some kiruv and outreach for them, fine. But if you know it's not going to happen, there's not much point having too much contact with them. They might be old school buddies, and you feel a little bit, maybe every once in a while, sort of say hello and check base and stuff, because you're almost like family. But to spend any sort of decent amount of time together, it's really going to just undermine your learning. So consider what I'm saying. Even though the person studies the subject seriously, it can become pale and dim in his mind and possibly erase entirely by associating with fools. Thus, one of the aspects of the subject that needs to be explained is how to maintain our intensity after we first gain the awareness of the issues. And so, when somebody comes to the Chavot HaLevavot or Duties of the Mind by Rabbi Victor Miller, New Translation Commentary, you are straight away apprehended by and shocked in a good way by the things that you're reading, and you're going, I haven't read or come across anything like this before in a religious environment, and it's so refreshing, and it's got me thinking about so many things. And I've never really thought that I have a wrong way that I look at the world. I look at the world in a glass is half empty instead of a glass is half full way, and you've all heard that expression. But I haven't really thought about the fact that I actually do that, and I've got to stop doing that because it's continuing to be a detriment to me, and it's continuing to rob me of the joy that I otherwise might have in life and in learning and growing and getting close into Hashem, where I'm just sort of doing it begrudgingly, and I'm still sort of pursuing pleasures of the world, but with one hand, but in the other hand, I'm trying to grab gems of Torah as well. And these two pursuits are kind of at odds with each other, and I'm kind of not comfortable with it, and I'm unsettled. And so you've got to go, okay, listen, I'm going to trust in Hashem, and I'm not going to be so much focused on the pursuit of pleasures, but maybe the pursuit now of just a knowledge of Hashem and what I can continue to do every day. And the thing is, like, if you're found every day pressing into Hashem and praying and learning, that's a pretty amazing, life you are having rolled out in front of you. You are playing out, even if you're not very successful or whatever, maybe, people, you're not sort of getting the traction that you would like to be getting. The simple fact that you're always locking in and engaging day after day, and praying regularly and studying, you have a good schedule, that's a good life to look back on, even with some pretty hairy moments in it. The good is constantly outweighing the bad, and there's an upward progression there, even though there's lost battles. There's tshuva that's there all the time, that's really tangible and really real. Okay, so page 84, the nature of true examining. Number one, the introduction. So everything up to this point has kind of been an introduction into the subject of Bikina. We're starting the first perek. The text up to this point serves as an introduction to Shah Bikina. The author says, but what is Bikina? Essentially, Bikina means pondering the signs of Hashem's wisdom that are apparent in nature and analyzing them to the best of our intellectual ability, to the best of the intellectual ability of the mavkin that is a person's the person doing the bekina. So a person doing bekina is called a mavkin. The actual process will vary depending on the individual. That is depending on whether he's a child or an adult, whether he's an average person or a more intelligent person. Each person according to his abilities, but the general objective is to recognize the plan and purpose in the world, which is evident wherever we look. However, if we don't spend time thinking about the plan and purpose, we will never notice it. So if we don't stop to look and to contemplate and to think about what's going on in the world, not socio-politically or anything like that, or wars or anything like that, just in terms of the way the world runs in terms of nature's course and life, we won't be as susceptible and understanding the purpose of life. We'll say that, yeah, we know the purpose of life, but it hasn't sort of gone into our gut. It hasn't gone into our emotional stream yet. All the purposes together add up to kindness. As Rabbeinu Sadir Goen said, all the details of nature add up to one thing, that is to provide food for the living. So the world is created to provide you with warmth, with clothing, with water, and with food. Everything in nature, the soil in particular, is very much geared towards providing you with sustenance in terms of food, because it's, if you take soil out of the equation, you render man sort of hamstrung in terms of his ability to be able to procure food. And the soil needs to be in a certain condition to do its job to produce food. The landmass of the earth is mostly covered in soil. It is like a blanket around a planet. People are accustomed to think that's how it has to be. However, it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, other planets don't have soil. Only Earth has soil. So if you look at Mars, Mars has Mars dust. But it doesn't really have soil. It doesn't really have anything. Nothing can really grow, at least like it does on Earth, because Mars is bereft of soil. Sure, it has dust, but it doesn't have soil. Soil is an especially interesting material. It is composed of many substances, and the purpose of this composition, and the purpose of this composite substance, is to provide food, clothing, and shelter for mankind. In fact, the entire Earth is a food-producing planet. The entire Earth is a food-producing planet. Its vegetation serves to produce food or produce clothing from the planet, such as flax and cotton. The vegetation is also the source of wood that may be used for baking in stoves, heating in houses, or building homes. Homes may also be built from bricks that are produced from clay that the soil provides. Thus, the soil with which this earth is blessed is like a storehouse of all good things. The sea is a vast storehouse of food. Many societies live on fish. Their livelihood depends on the products of the sea. Even we who don't entirely live off the sea depend on it to a large extent. The sea also cooperates with the clouds to produce rain. The winds too are essential in the production of food. Even the sun is food giving. Without it, no food production will take place. The sun shines on plants and its rays activate their chlorophyll. They activate the plant's chlorophyll. As a result, carbon dioxide from the air is converted into the growth of the plants. So we see that the whole world is purposeful, and that purpose is chesed, is kindness. There are two things to be aware of. First, it's a world of plan and purpose. Secondly, the purpose is kindness. That is what we are required to study to the extent that we are able to understand it. Now, wisdom, although it has various manifestations in nature, is essentially a single concept. So wisdom, although it has various manifestations in nature, is essentially a single concept. It's not many different concepts. It's essentially one. However we look, wherever we look, We see wisdom, the wisdom of plan and purpose. But there are some things that are more readily testify to the wisdom of Hashem than others. So some things we see are more obvious that Hashem is about, that Hashem is doing, not only created things, but He's in constant process of continuing to renew creation. He didn't just sort of make the world like somebody goes to a beach and makes a sandcastle and walks away and leaves it to the elements, leaves it to fend for itself. He stays with the sandcastle and He oversees it. If that analogy works for you. But there are some things that are more readily testify the wisdom of Hashem than others. It is like the sun, which is made of the same material throughout, yet its light does not always have the same appearance. Its rays divided into different colors. When they pass through window panes, they are made from white glass, black glass, and red glass or green glass. The sunlight changes according to the changes in the colors of the glass. This is where we get the effect of a stained glass window. When it does come through the white window pane, the sunlight appears white. But when it goes through the dark window pane, the sunlight appears darkened according to the color of the glass. So, the light that's provided, the natural light that's provided by the sun, and even artificial light, is almost like a neutral substance. And you can change the color of that light by making the color have to pass through, a different, like a red piece of foil. Is that what they call it? It's not alfoil. It's like a foil, like a red foil or a green piece of plastic you can put over the top of the light, or you can put it on the window, and you'll see green reflect on the ground, not white. If it was a normal window. So it's interesting. The sun's sort of a yellowy color if you look at it. But the light that provides itself is sort of neutral in terms of its consistency and its color. It can be changed, and its neutrality you can allow it to be changed. Imagine if it was a green glow that it gave off, it would be very hard to get all the spectrums of colors if you're using something like a stained glass window. The sunlight of Hashem's kindness and wisdom shines upon us through all these means. I think I missed a bit. The wisdom of Hashem is everywhere. It only differs according to the various forms in which it appears. There is wisdom in mountains, in seas and in forests. There is wisdom in the amazingly complex design of vegetation, animals, and human beings. We also see wisdom in the behavior of animals and human beings. The sunlight of Hashem's kindness and wisdom shines upon us through all these means. Each one is like a different window pane, and it shows a different aspect, but they all come from the original light of Hashem's wisdom. So they're using the neutrality of the light of the sun and how it can be manipulated to shine forth different colors through using stained glass window as an analogy that, a man and beast, animals and vegetation and plants, and seasons, trees and all these things look completely different, but they'll come from essentially the same source. And we can learn from Hashem by looking at everything, absolutely everything. There's nothing that we can't look at that we can't learn something about Hashem from. Each one is like a different window pane, and it shines a different aspect. They all come from the original light of Hashem's wisdom. Note at this point, the author offers another mashal to illustrate the unity of the concept of wisdom. It is like water that is used to irrigate a fruit orchard, whose blossoms are different, having various colors. The same water causes red blossoms, pink blossoms, white blossoms, blue blossoms, and even green leaves. The colors are produced by different chemical combinations in the water of the plants, but they're all from the same source of water. The plant is that without the water, there would be no blossoms at all. Similarly, the wisdom of Hashem is apparent in manifold ways in the world, but all its aspects stem from the original source of Hashem's wisdom and Hashem's kindness. Summary, the facets of wisdom and kindness. The author compared the wisdom and kindness, the plan and purpose of Hashem in the world to the sun that shines through windows, having various colored panes. The same sunlight creates different colors depending on which pane it goes through. In a similar manner, Hashem's wisdom and kindness demonstrates themselves in many ways in this world, but they all stem from the same source, the Chesed of Hashem and the Chokhmah of Hashem. So it's always good to be able to summarize the lecture that you just watched, or you just partook in, or you just read, or whatever. And so that'll do you a lot of favors in terms of enabling you to launch from a good place when you proceed to get involved in the next lecture, because you're kind of up to speed with what you've looked at previously, and then you can sort of hit the ground running and move on to another subject. So in the Jewish world, when a rabbi was teaching his students, he would ask his students to relay to him what they learned in the last shiur, and if they didn't satisfactorily sum up the major principles that he was teaching in the last class, he would teach that class again, or the student in some way might be even penalized. But he would not move on to the next subject unless the students can satisfactorily summarize what the key aspects and topics were in the previous shiur. So this is something you might want to consider if you're watching these lectures, to take notes and in a summary, in a small summarized way. Don't try to take pages and pages of notes for every video that you watch, but just hit the main points and jot them down, and just give them a quick review before you hit play on the next video as we go forward. Therefore, reflect on the creations of Hashem, small and large, and ponder the signs of Hashem's wisdom in them that are still hidden from you. And with the help of Hashem, you will find that they are as I have told you. And we'll leave it there. That takes us to page 87, to part 2, why there is diversity in nature. Listen, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a happy and a safe Hanukkah. We're sort of down to this is the second day of Hanukkah. Those of you that are celebrating the last day of Hanukkah in a public place, be exceedingly careful. Make sure you have everything done in tandem with your local police force, and we'll get through this. We'll get through this one way or another, by hook or by crook. We'll get through this, but stay strong, and be alert, and be very on guard, and most of all, publicize the miracle, even in the despite of the dark time that we've now entered. Until next time, Hashem willing, bye for now.